The last couple of weeks, I have done a style of video in which I talk about the biggest topics from a recent time period, and due to some nonsense going on with my microphone and laptop, I've not been able to upload a lot the last couple of days, but we are back. And on the last day of April, I want to talk about some of the topics that have been going around college football recently, and give my thoughts and bring you guys up to speed. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about the biggest news going on in college football, April 30th edition. The first thing I want to talk about is a tragic situation that happened a couple of days ago, as it actually went national, as Purdue's official mascot is something called the Boilermaker Special. Instead of some sort of furry rabbit or a Christmas tree, Purdue actually has a car that was made into a train. It's called the Boilermaker Special, and sadly, a couple days ago, a 23-year-old Lafayette woman, which is where Purdue is located, was killed in a crash. Not every day do you hear about a team mascot ending someone's life, but unfortunately this would happen, as while the Boilermaker Special was going on Route US 52, it had some sort of tire malfunction and crossed over the median and ended someone's life. This happened 11 miles away from Purdue's campus, and the driver of the car unfortunately lost its life. Purdue's social media said, quote, "Our thoughts are with all of those impacted by the incident." Sure, it may not be necessarily the biggest college football news in the world, but this story went national as it was pretty much everywhere and very tragic. And a second piece of news that started to circulate over the last couple of hours, former college football star quarterback Jordan Travis has decided to retire from football after that injury he suffered while he was at Florida State back in 2023. The New York Jets quarterback announced that this afternoon, as it came out around 2 o'clock. As we all know, Travis ended up starting out his career at Louisville, went over to Florida State, and was a backup for a little while before taking over for a couple of years and having a tremendous 2023 season before that terrible injury he had against North Alabama that ended his season and ended Florida State's college football playoff hopes. Travis took to social media saying, quote, "On November 18th of 2023, my life took an unexpected turn. I gave everything I had to the rehab process, but despite all my efforts, my leg never responded the way we hoped. After much prayer and consultation with doctors, medical experts, and my agent, I've been medically advised to retire from the game I love so deeply." He ended up getting an opportunity in the NFL, as despite the injury, the Jets decided to select him in the 5th round, as he went with pick number 171 back in the 2024 draft. It was always going to be an uphill battle for Travis, but unfortunately, it did not end up working out for him, and this is truly sad to see. He was a lot of fun to watch at Florida State, and he had the makings of an incredible comeback story. Again, I wish the best to Jordan, and this is definitely very sad news. A couple weeks ago, I did a video on Micah Hudson, a former 5-star recruit who sort of had a saga in this year's transfer portal. Coming out of high school, he ended up going to Lake Belton in Texas and had 70 catches for 1,400 yards and 18 touchdowns as a senior. He became one of the biggest gets in Texas Tech football history, but barely got an opportunity to play because of an injury and falling behind on the depth chart. After having just a couple of catches his freshman year, Micah Hudson would go into the transfer portal and head to Texas A&M. It was then announced that he would temporarily step away from football, and Mike Elko said the guy was as good as gone. Texas A&M fans were wondering what the heck was going on, but behind the scenes, there were rumors about him visiting the campus at Texas Tech, and recently this past week, he's decided to go back to Lubbock and will be a Red Raider once again. This is a huge get for the Red Raiders, as they keep a big-time player in the program, and add another talented weapon for Baron Morton to throw the ball to. There's definitely been a saga here with him, and I wonder how it's going to play out and how he will do this fall. For our fourth topic, we need to talk about a big-time 4-star quarterback who chose a school, and that is Brady Smeaggel. He's the number 4 pocket passer in the class of 2026, according to ESPN, but ultimately he's ranked a bit differently in other sites. He comes out of Newbury Park, California, and was originally committed to Florida State. Ultimately, he would drop that commitment and decide to visit the Wolverines for their spring game on April 19th and pulled the trigger. He said, quote, "We just thought it was the best time to make the decision, and I went out to Michigan, and I knew it was the spot for me. Being able to see the strength staff and how they handle the players, the discipline within the program, it was all really impressive." He also really liked offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey, and so far in his 3 years of high school football, he's passed for 11,228 yards and 147 touchdowns. This guy is absolutely crazy, and I think he has a lot of potential. Sherrone Moore needs good quarterback play, and after getting Bryce Underwood in the 2025 class, Brady is a big-time pickup for 2026. Up next, we need to talk about some big news in the transfer portal, as receiver Trevor Pena ended up deciding to leave Syracuse in favor of Penn State. Pena was not always exactly a big deal though, as coming out of Ocean Township School in New Jersey, he ended up being a decent athlete, but was only ranked as a 3-star recruit. He chose to go to Syracuse over offers like Army, Navy, Albany, and Bryant, and that offer to Cuse came after Fran Brown left Temple. This was honestly a big deal, and Trevor ended up having a really good season and became one of the top receivers in the ACC this past year. Apparently he demanded a ton of money though, and Fran Brown came out and publicly said he wasn't paying a receiver that much, so off to the portal he went. Unfortunately, that's how college football is going. Pena decided to take a couple of visits, but was pretty quickly early on pegged to go to Penn State, and he decided to choose that. He now becomes their #1 wide receiver for the 2025 season, and with a great pair of running backs and a star quarterback in Drew Aller, Penn State's hoping to make a run at a national title, and this was a missing piece that they desperately needed. We get to another tragic story on the list today, as we need to talk about Derek Harmon and his mother. NFL draft is always one of the best times of the year, and is a lifelong achievement for NFL players. It's also a huge deal for their families, and going back in time, Derek Harmon was not a highly touted recruit, but ended up at Michigan State, made a name for himself, and then decided to leave for Oregon. That was in his best interest to go off to the NFL someday, but behind the scenes, his mom was struggling with a lot of health issues, but Harmon ended up becoming so good at Oregon that he became a first-round pick. He ultimately was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers at pick number 21, but sadly, on the best night of his life, it also became the worst night of his life. Unfortunately, just a couple of hours after he was drafted, his mother would pass away. He left his draft party to go over to the hospital, and he said, quote, "It was a little bittersweet, man. My mom wasn't with me, and she's at the hospital right now on life support, so that was a little bittersweet. And this was because she worked so hard to get me to this moment. And once she saw her son achieve an amazing dream, she passed away. She was probably purely at peace, and we should all pray for her soul." Speaking of another big-time transfer, former blue-chip quarterback Jaden Rashada has finally found his new school. It has been quite the saga for him, as he was not really wanted by any program, and everything kind of came back to bite him a bit. Going back in time, Rashada was a huge deal coming out of the state of California, and he went to Pittsburgh High School. He spent time flipping around between both Miami and Florida trying to get more NIL money, and there was a whole saga with that, and things fell through, and he went to his dad's alma mater at Arizona State. He became the week 1 starter, then ended up getting hurt and transferred over to Georgia. He was always supposed to be a depth piece for the Dogs, but after realizing he wouldn't start, he entered the portal again, and no school really wanted him. But he's finally found his new program, as he has decided to sign with Sacramento State. They recently announced they're going to be moving up to the FBS level, and this is a big get for the program. To get a guy who is a borderline 5-star at one point is not something that typically happens, and definitely helps with the momentum that Sacramento State is slowly starting to build. I'm definitely curious to see if he's going to try to build them up, or if he's going to use them as a stepping stone though. Last but not least, we need to talk about the biggest draft slide we have ever seen in NFL draft history, as Shador Sanders went from a top 5 pick to literally going in the 5th round. All offseason, we heard about how Shador Sanders was going to be a top 5 pick and a franchise quarterback, and this was hyped up by the media, most specifically ESPN. But what a lot of people forgot is that the system was perfectly catered to Shador, the system was built around him to succeed, and whatever NFL team decided to take a chance on him would also have to deal with his dad. Combining that with some bad pre-draft interviews and just a general sentiment of a bad attitude, Shador ended up falling out of the 1st round, the 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round, and then was finally taken on day 3 by the Cleveland Browns. The Browns have a weird quarterback room this year with 5 different guys, and they also drafted Dillon Gabriel out of Oregon. I have no idea what is going to happen here, but for a guy who had a custom room built for himself and pretty much thought he was the greatest prospect since Andrew Luck, it was kind of funny to see and was probably definitely a humbling moment for Shador. Still though, I'm curious to see how he does in Cleveland and hope the best for him. So yeah, today we talked about the 8 biggest topics going around college football recently, and if you enjoy this style of video, be sure to leave a like, let me know your thoughts down below, and check out some of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.